following is a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
How about them Cowboys?
This is Talkin Cowboys. Streaming live from the Dallas Cowboys World Headquarters at the Star in Frisco.
Handoff, Elliott plowing to the goal line. Barry, sacked by Lord. Prescott keeps it, and he bangs it in for the touchdown.
And now your hosts, Isaiah Stanback, Heckma Harrison, Rob Phillips, and Kyle Yeomans.
It's a Tuesday edition of Talkin Cowboys here from the virtual SWBC Mortgage Studios as we break down what happened on Sunday against the Cincinnati Bengals, and then we start looking ahead to where the San Francisco 49ers come to town. It's a Fans on the 50 Tuesday, so send in your fan questions right now in the Periscope stream, or you can go and tweet at us as well. But it's Heckma Harrison and Isaiah Stanback alongside myself, Kyle Yeomans. Rob Phillips will join us here in just a minute whenever he's done doing his big-time duties of talking to 105.3 The Fan and the boys of Sean and RJ. But guys, how we doing today? Are we still reeling after the win on Sunday? Or are we already looking ahead to what the San Francisco 49ers present, Mr. Isaiah Stanback?
I'm looking forward to the 49ers, sir. I mean, the wins are in the past. It's already completed. Let's figure out what the heck we're going to do next.
That's such a coach answer. Such a coach answer.
Well, then I'm on the whole other end of that. I'm still basking in the afterglow of the victory.
You're in ambiance, basking in the ambiance.
Yes, I mean, hey, we've only had 4 of these Victory Mondays. I'm going to turn it into Victory Tuesday. I'm going to hold on to this feeling as long as I possibly can. It just felt good, man. It felt good to see our team get a win and, you know, guys play up to where they felt like they needed to be at this point in the season. And I don't know if you guys saw, I mean, there's so much happening with the Cowboys right now, and I'm sure you're going to hit it, so I don't want to get ahead of you because that's what I do best, Kyle.
Yeah. I mean, you do it all the time, but I love it. But I mean, there's plenty to talk about whenever it comes to the last couple of days because of what Stephen Jones said yesterday on 105.3 The Fan, and then what Jerry Jones said today. And I kind of want to get into what Jerry said today. And he basically doubled down and he backed up Mike McCarthy. And he said it would be crazy. His actual word was ridiculous on what he would end up, or ridiculous to even think that Mike McCarthy would not be here in 2021. And that was what Jerry Jones said today on 105.3 The Fan. But Isaiah, last week you were the one that said that you didn't think that Mike McCarthy was the right man for the job. Does one win change that, or is this just Jerry completely backing up his guy and doing what he needs to do on air, talking about what his head coach is moving forward?
My statements last week were just in reference to being unsure if he is the right guy, simply because of the decisions that he's allowed to pass through his ranks. The defensive the defensive calls or lack thereof execution on defense, which runs through the defensive coordinator, in which he coaches that coach. So he allows that. The special teams plays that have come through that he's allowed to come across his table. Guess what? He coaches that coach. He allows that. So I do have a lot of questions pertaining around Coach McCarthy. I have no questions about his history and his past, but we're not talking about the past anymore, right? The past gets you to the present, but right now, presently, I don't think that he's done a good job as a head coach in terms of being the overseer of all decisions that touch the field. But one game does not turn that around. Absolutely not. We're still at the bottom of the league in a lot of different areas. So I think he has a long way to go. I think you do owe him a full offseason. Now, I think that's fair. I wasn't saying to get rid of him. I'm just saying that based off of his decisions this year, I am definitely not confident, but I'm going to give him, if I was a general manager, I would definitely give him another year and a full offseason to show me that what I just saw this year was not true.
Heckma?
Well, I think any other statement about Mike McCarthy in 2020 would obviously be a knee-jerk reaction to what's going on with this team. You have to, all things being considered with COVID and what this coaching staff has had to deal with. I think that's smart. I think you don't attack it any other way, especially when you went in to 2020 believing that you had the right guy, and obviously unbeknownst to you, a global pandemic breaks out. And so I think that that's smart. I think I didn't expect for Stephen or Jerry to answer that question any other way. And I think, not saying let's be fair. I just feel as though, you can't just have okay, let's fire this guy now, and realizing that he didn't have his full arsenal, and he definitely didn't have time to prepare for the season. But there are some questionable things that has happened, like Isaiah said. All of those calls, a lot of the things that he allowed to happen on special teams, defensive calls, things like that. He hears that. Offensive calls, he's hearing it in his headset, and his job is to coach the coaches. So when things like that go by on your watch, that's just one more that they're notching and putting under his name to see how he proceeds with this going into the future. But, I didn't expect the answer to go any other way except for we're bringing him back next year.
And Rob, we're talking about Jerry Jones and what he said this morning on 105.3 The Fan, just a little bit earlier than what you hopped on with Sean and RJ. They were on with him, and he was basically backing up Mike McCarthy and doubling down there. Do you think that's exactly what Jerry thinks moving forward, or what did you make out of what Jerry had to say?
Yeah, sorry guys, I ran kind of late on the Fan. I was honestly surprised that it picked up steam in the mainstream media the way it did, to be honest with you. I don't think there has never been a question to me, or I believe Jerry in the Joneses' mind that Mike's back next year. I mean, one thing about Jerry is, one regret that he has going back to the late 90s in firing, I think it was Chan Gailey, was not giving him enough time to establish his program. It's one reason why Jason Garrett was here for 10 years, because Jerry decided continuity with your coaching staff is very important. Now, they reached a point with Jason Garrett where they decided they needed a new message. But they're going to give Mike a lot of rope, a lot of chances here, because the pandemic is one thing. They also, it's not based on so much to me what's happened this year. This year has not been indicative of what he can do as a head coach. Part of it's the circumstances. Part of it's, like you guys said, I mean, he's kind of a walk-around coach.
I think we lost Rob on both ends of this, so we'll get him back coming up here in just a little bit. But basically, I like what he was talking to, and I definitely want him to finish off what he was saying here in just a little bit. But Isaiah, whenever it comes to listening to Jerry Jones, I mean, it really hasn't been a question with Mike McCarthy, right? I mean, it really hasn't. You never really at any point this season, even though no matter what you think personally, you never saw this coaching staff and said there's no way that Mike McCarthy comes back in 2021, correct?
Sorry, there's a little bit of an echo, so I think I got what you said, but in terms of, just repeat the last portion. You said Coach McCarthy, was there any question whether or not he's coming back?
There was no question about what Jerry Jones had to deal with in terms of bringing him back in 2021. That was never in question, but maybe the rest of the coaching staff, that was kind of a report that started surfing last week.
Yeah, absolutely. I think obviously Coach McCarthy's coming back. You don't fire a coach after what, if this is unprecedented. This has never happened ever in the history of Everton. You definitely, if you were to fire him, you're the most cutthroat, ruthless individual in the world. If you fire the head coach for that, however, you do fire coordinators, and the defensive coordinator, I don't see how they can retain him after this year. I think that you give him yes, he's had a lot of injuries happen to him too. There was guys that were supposed to be there, veterans that were supposed to be there that he was relying on, who either got hurt or either got cut. However, the cream of the crop, majority of his guys, they have been there. He's had a ton of injuries in the secondary as well, so he's had to overcome some things. But you look at it on the other side of the ball, Coach Philbin has overcome those things as well. Coach Philbin is not even a coordinator. Kellen Moore has made adjustments as well, and he is a coordinator. So when you look at those comparisons, when you start looking at history and saying, hey, this is one of the worst defenses of all time, it's kind of hard to justify giving him another opportunity to come back because he hasn't shown you that he can overcome adversity. That's one thing that I think everybody looks for is like, hey, when those points of adversity really hit, when those hurdles show up, how do you get over them? Do you get over them or do you just run into them over and over again? And I think that our defense has continually ran into the same doggone hurdle instead of finding a way around it.
Heckma.
Isaiah said Everdom. That's good. And Mike Nolan has had his struggles, and I think when you look at the numbers on the defense, it's off the charts. How bad this defense has been in so many levels, and I think it's hard as a fan base to kind of get behind him and say, okay, let's give him another stab at this. Not making any excuses for him. I just feel like he never had the personnel to play the scheme that he wanted. And I believe he knew that going into the season. There are so many injuries that happened before the season even started. I mean, it seems like that was many moon ago, but there were so many guys that we were counting on to be a part of this defense that were not. And, with the rookies and guys that came off the practice squad to be on the defense, it just seemed to me like this defense never had an opportunity to get that continuity that we thought they would have in the front line. Linebacker-wise, DBs, and look, man, that's a story all on its own, and just how bad that has been for us, especially at the safety position. We have to do something there, and so I don't know. I hesitate to place blame, especially when coaches are not coaching guys to whiff on tackles and not attack the line of scrimmage or not break on balls. These are things that guys have been playing their whole entire careers. And so, look, I just feel as though even with all things being considered, maybe we, approach this with caution and say, look, man, let's come back to it. The defense in the offseason, let's get some of the personnel in there so that we can play the kind of defense that Nolan wants to play, because right now he doesn't have the dogs to do it.
Wow, so Isaiah, you're keeping him, or excuse me, Isaiah, you're moving on, and then Heckma, you're keeping him. Rob, I see you back on our WebEx side of things.
Sorry,
do
I'm
you
back.
agree with Mike Nolan?
I don't know what they're going to do. I mean, I think, he was asked directly last night via conference call by the media. Mike Nolan was, do you expect to be back? And he said he's not thinking about it, and when that time comes, we'll deal with it if there is a change. So, look, he's aware of how bad the defense has been this year. He knows it. I mean, when you look at the numbers, it's historically bad. And it was a step in the right direction on Sunday. But, I hear what you're saying about, not having the pieces necessarily to play what you want. But then play a 4-3. Don't be as multiple. And they did scale some things back as the season went along, but he has done both schemes throughout his career, and we heard about them trying to, tailor scheme to the personnel. I don't know if they've really done that this year. They tried to fit it around what they wanted to do, and it hasn't worked. And some of it's personnel, and some of it is executing simple assignments. We've talked about that. Isaiah's talked about that during the season. There's been basic coverages they've blown. And then in the personnel game too, look, they didn't replace certain players well enough, clearly. Byron Jones, Jeff Heath, Malik Collins, you can go down the list. When people say it's the same defense as last year, no, it's not. They're missing guys that did a good job for them last year. So it's a lot of different reasons. But as I said on the fan a few minutes ago, I mean, they're going to have to ask some hard questions after the year about scheme, why didn't it work? And obviously, Mike Nolan's going to be a huge part of that. We know Mike McCarthy has a lot of faith in him, but something's got to change. Whether it's drastic changes in scheme or whether it's a change at the coordinator position, I don't know what they're going to do.
And I think that's something that's significant is a lot of people are, I mean, that's kind of where I hear that excuse come in, and it's this is the same personnel group. And I've said it before, it's very similar of a personnel group that the Cowboys had last year on defense. But one guy that's not out there is number 31 in Byron Jones. And you don't have Byron Jones back out there. So it's a combination of the personnel. It's a combination of the scheme. There's a lot of things missing out of this defense that have to be found this offseason for the Cowboys to start having a little bit of success. And by the way, I am watching the Periscope chat because it is Fans on the 50 Tuesday. So once again, if you have questions, send in your questions on the Periscope chat. I like this comment from Fredizzle and I love the name too, Fredizzle. He says, "Bring Wade Phillips back. Best defense we've had in forever." I mean, hey,
Isaiah was there.
Anybody want to go get Wade Phillips back? Isaiah, you played for the man.
Yeah, Coach Phillips he's an amazing human being. First of all, he's not. I wouldn't classify him as an amazing head coach. He's a great gentleman and nice guy. But I think he's an amazing defensive coordinator. That's one thing he does well. I think he stepped out of his element a little bit when I'm grateful because he brought me on. But I think he's a much better defensive coordinator, and I don't think there's anywhere he's been where he hasn't been well respected. Where he hasn't gotten the most out of those players, out of that defense. He brings a lot of range, a lot of diversity, a lot of curveballs, in terms of his defensive schemes. He's able to run the 3-4. He's able to run the 4-3. No matter what personnel he's had, he's found a way. And I think that's my biggest issue with Mike Nolan this year is everybody knows that you've had injuries. Everybody gets it. Everybody gets that you've had injuries. Everybody gets that you brought veterans in that you knew were going to play an integral part, and they didn't show up the way that you expected them to. We get it. We totally understand. However, as a coach, as a player, right, you're judged based off of how you can overcome those things. How can you change course? If this is your course and a doggone boulder comes off the mountain and blocks your road, do you just sit there and say, well, I'm just going to wait this one out? Or do you say, let me find a way. Let me start looking around. Can I go up that way? Nah, let me see if I can go around this way. You start changing things up. You have to get creative because this is your personnel. This is what you have. Either you go have a conversation with Will McClay and Jerry Jones, and you say, hey, I need to get this guy out of here. Give me this guy right here that I see, blase, blase, blase. Or you say, these are my guys that I have on my current roster. What the heck can I do to make sure that these guys are effective and efficient? I don't care if it's even something that nobody's ever seen before. Shoot, when I played for New England, Rex Ryan used to run a 1-5-5 defense. 1-5-5. Hey, what the heck is a 1-5-5? That's never been done ever in history. But guess what? That's the personnel group he had. He trusted one defensive lineman. He had 5 really good linebackers and 5 DBs. So what did he do? This is what we're going with. It doesn't matter whether or not it's tradition or not. Find a way to make it happen. Find a way to throw off the opposing team and be successful.
And I'm sorry, Kyle. I just want to say that, I agree with that. And I think that, obviously you got to play to the strength of the guys that you have. But in the NFL, if you stay with a look too long, teams will pick you apart. And he had to be multifaceted with his defense and his coverages. If you look no further, just talk about Tank Lawrence, right? A guy that we've seen that come in through the draft that it was a little raw. We have to work on his game. Leon Lett worked on him to no end, and he turned out to be a player and got the contract. In comes Mike Nolan, changes what we were doing before from the 4-3 to the 3-4, and now instead of being a guy that's in the 3 down, he's in a bicycle stance, right? And that changes the dynamic of the way that guy had been coached up all of those years. And then let's go back to the fact that multiple interviews with Stephen Jones saying that, look, we have the guys on campus to get this done. We haven't seen those guys yet, right? And back when we were trying to get other guys from other teams, and I don't even want to get Isaiah started about this, but I just feel as though we had multiple opportunities to bring in guys to help us, but we felt like the group that we had was good enough. And I think that going back and looking at the film, we realized that we didn't have it.
That's so frustrating. It really is, because there were guys out there that could potentially help you, or at least you thought so, and they just haven't been able to bring any of those guys in, Rob.
But those names sound good in names theory, right? And
right.
But look at who the Cowboys brought in. In name, it sounded great too. Everson Griffin, Dontari Poe didn't work.
Clinton Dix.
So, I mean, there was no guarantee there. I don't really, nobody signed Earl Thomas this year for whatever reason. I'm not saying he can't play anymore, but nobody did. So Isaiah mentioned Rex Ryan. It did get me thinking about Rob Ryan coming in here. And there's a similarity. Like after Wade's tenure, Rob Ryan comes in as DC, and we heard about being multiple and doing all this different stuff. And it sounds great, but if you can't apply it on the field, that's when you have a problem. They had substitution pattern problems, with Rob Ryan, and they tried to do too much. Jerry said it. And if guys aren't comfortable on the field, then that's where your primary job as a coach is making your players comfortable on the field, and they have yet to do that consistently, and that's why the rankings are where they are.
And the Cowboys are at the bottom of the barrel whenever it comes to those rankings.
Thanks for the reminder, Kyle.
And this will be, you're welcome, guys. I just wanted to let that be known. But, this is going to be a conversation not only this week, but next week and the week after and into the offseason, because that's how the conversation is going to continue to unfold. And these last 3 games, we mentioned yesterday players playing for their jobs. These coaches are coaching for their jobs as well. And they're trying to find a way back here in 2021, or at least somewhere on an NFL roster and NFL staff somewhere throughout the league. But when we come back here on Talkin' Cowboys, we'll continue this conversation. We'll look ahead a little bit to the San Francisco game and how important is it that the Cowboys keep this momentum rolling when we return on Talkin' Cowboys presented by Geico.
There's nothing as unique as our eyes, which is why Essilor pioneers ways to make lenses as unique as you. Verilux for super sharp vision, Essential Blue for protection, and Crizal for freedom from glare. 3 cutting-edge solutions in a single unique lens. So whatever your needs, insist on Essilor. Visit your local Essilor experts and find the perfect lens for you. See more, do more, Essilor.
Since 1865, Stetson hats are American-made with pride right here in Texas. And Stetson is proud to be on the field with America's team. Want to show your Texas and team pride too? You can. By purchasing your own Stetson, you can look just like how the flag guys do on field at every home game. Stetson hats, the official crown of all self-respecting Cowboys and your favorite football team.
Get yours today at shop.dallascowboys.com or at stetson.com.
I'm Jay Novacek, former tight end for the Dallas Cowboys. Back in the day, I was the guy who always got the tough yards, and that's why I run with John Deere today. In fact, I have a John Deere 3025E tractor that can handle any yard work I need to do, even the tough yards way out back. So if you have 1 acre or 1,000, John Deere has the equipment that's just right for you. Visit a John Deere dealer today and run with us. We are the official tractor provider of your Dallas Cowboys.
Dear, it's 1908. Don't you think we should get electricity?
And stop using candles to see at night.
It's just electricity lights up the room fast. It's more reliable than candles blowing out, and people seem to love it nationwide.
Well, candles are...
Dear, did you just run into the wall?
Nope. May I have a new candle, please?
Historically, switching to new technology is a no-brainer. Today, it's AT&T 5G. Fast, reliable, secure, and nationwide. Switch to AT&T 5G. It's not complicated. 5G requires compatible plan. May not be in your area. See att.com/5G for you for details.
Back to Talkin' Cowboys.
Back here with the Tuesday edition of Talkin' Cowboys. Glad you're with us on DallasCowboys.com and the various streaming websites. Kyle Yeomans alongside our resident Super Bowl champion, Isaiah Stanback. We've got the great Cowboys insider, Rob Phillips, and college and pro football analyst, Mr. Heckma Harrison, here on Talkin' Cowboys. And whether you're beast. Yeah, there you go. Whether you're listening to Talkin' Cowboys or working out, Bose Quiet Comfort earbuds will allow you to experience audio in a whole new way with Bose Quiet Comfort earbuds, the official earbuds of the Dallas Cowboys. So, guys, mentioned this a little bit earlier in the week, but we didn't really get a chance to go into it. But we saw Reggie Robinson for one play. For one snap, we saw him as a corner. And it was a run play to the other side. And we also saw another inactive Bradley Anae. My question is to you guys, what's holding this back now? I mean, because earlier it was kind of a fun little joke. It was a bit of a bit. Let's see these guys. We want to see them play. But whenever you're 4-9 and you're in the position where you are, where you're a half a game from being eliminated out of the NFC East hunt, why is Reggie Robinson not available? And where is Bradley and I at the same time? Because Isaiah, Rob, Heckma, I don't know. I don't know at this point anymore where they could be, and maybe something's holding them back. Isaiah, do you think of anything specific that could potentially be the case with those guys not even remotely seeing snaps, especially right now?
Without having seen practice, only thing that I could even remotely even point to would be just their comprehension of the playbook. That's the only, and again, that's just me guessing. I have no idea. But if I had to guess anything, it would be the comprehension of the playbook, because we have literally went down at least at the safety position. We went down to dang near going to Rob P. Island and grabbing somebody, and he still hasn't found a way to be on the field. So I'm not sure what's going on. I wish I could see practice and have a better understanding. Bradley and I think there's just too many guys in front of him right now. Honestly, I mean, Randy Gregory coming off suspension, all that stuff, that obviously pushed him down even more. So there's a lot of vets, there's a lot of guys that are getting paid a good amount of money. You got guys like Crawford that are in there that are getting paid good money that they have to play him. They have to play him because they're paying him. So, unfortunately, he just gets a redshirt year. But in terms of the Robinson ordeal, I have no idea.
Heckma?
So you go one play with Robinson, and automatically you get the hook and pull him out.
Send to him, yank him right back out.
And to me, I mean, in similar situations like that, it sounds like what Isaiah said. The coaches don't trust them. But how do they trust those other guys that we see getting beat on just simple slant routes? I've always been that person that felt like the coaches, and as much time as they spend evaluating players, and I know I'm starting to sound like a broken record on this, but that's just how I feel. I think they do a good enough job Monday to Sunday doing the evaluations. And to me, if that guy had anything in him that they felt like would be useful on game day, he'd be in there. So, maybe this is a redshirt year for him to pick up the playbook. And, all things being considered, when we talk about Mike McCarthy and Mike Nolan and all the coaches that are going to come back, we have to put into consideration that guys like Reggie Robinson may have benefited greatly from OTAs and everything else that he was not a part of. So, look, I just feel like, and even with going to Bradley and I think, again, Randy Gregory emerging on the roster, and also Dorrance Armstrong. I think they believe more in those guys, and you see them staying with them. But again, even those young guys are getting reps on special teams. So it's not all for naught, and we still have a couple more games left, and you may get your wish, Kyle.
I hope so.
Yeah,
Rob?
Kyle, I'm going to give you a little Lloyd Christmas here. So you're saying there's a chance? Because Mike Nolan kind of left the door open yesterday. He said they talk about him every week. Like, they have the discussion, should he be up? Should they give him an opportunity? And it's what you guys said. Mike basically said, when Randy came back, they play the same position. So it's a numbers thing, unfortunately. Yep. They said it's nothing he's done wrong in practice. He's practiced well. I didn't get the same vibe when Mike Nolan was asked about Reggie Robinson yesterday. He talked about how, let me give you the quote. I wish we actually had the cut, but he said, he just needs to continue to practice, work hard, and when his opportunity strikes, he needs to answer the bell. Which
that's not good.
We will. Yeah,
that's not good. That ain't good.
That sounds like, and we're reading between the lines, but that sounds like you're not seeing enough on the field. The other thing that Mike Nolan said, though, was that they're working him at corner and safety. And I know that Mike McCarthy has said since training camp they want their DBs to be able to play everywhere.
Play both. Yeah.
But if you have a rookie that a draft pick coming in who played corner his entire college career, maybe pick one and let him get comfortable at one thing. Maybe that's affecting his development a little bit. I don't know. Stephen Jones was on the Fan yesterday and said, look, just remember Tristan Hill. We talked about the same stuff with Tristan Hill last year, and look how he developed. So give him time. He might very well develop into a player for him.
I could talk to that, because when I got drafted by the Cowboys, I was a quarterback. And I came in and I show up and I was still injured. And by the time I touched the field, it was camp. And they didn't have time to teach me how to play receiver. They didn't have time. They had to get guys ready, right? They had to get T.O. ready, Terry Glenn, Patrick Creighton, Sam Hurd, Miles Austin, all these guys had to get ready to play in the game. They didn't have time to be teaching the rookie how to play receiver. So a lot of that stuff I had to try to figure out on my own. So if he is, obviously he's coming in as a safety, but he's playing, coming in as a corner and going to safety. It's a whole new area, right? A lot of people are like, oh, it's still just a secondary. It's totally different. Your reads are different. Your eyes are different. Your rank, your space, your where you're at in space, your proprioception, all that stuff is different. So, give him some time. Give him some time. It'll come around. But they didn't have the offseason to give him reps to get more comfortable there. But when your coach tells you need to answer the bell when your number's called, that sounds like he's probably laying an egg in practice somewhere.
Yeah, I talked to Reggie's position coach at Tulsa a few months back, Aaron Fletcher, and he said, I think he was a safety in high school, but yeah, he was their top corner. Like go just whoever the best receiver is, go cover him and shut him down. Cortland Sutton, whoever it was in that conference, he's a corner, and so if you're trying to convert him to safety, I think that's probably part of it. But yeah, you've got to, heck, you said it. I mean, you got to do enough in practice to where the coaches trust you, and that probably is not the case yet.
And I think that's where I'm frustrated, because with Bradley and I kind of get it, right? You kind of get it because there's people in front of you. There's other guys. There's Randy Gregory. There's Dorrance Armstrong. There's guys there. So if he's not getting snaps, then it's because those other guys are earning those snaps. But with Reggie Robinson, like Isaiah said, we're going out to Rob P. Island to grab a guy. I mean, we were one more strained calf away from putting the team manager out there to play corner. So why is Reggie Robinson last on that list? That's just where I have that confusion. And like you said, maybe it is. I mean, that's pretty worrisome, hearing from Mike Nolan saying that he has to take advantage whenever those opportunities pop up, because I mean, that's coach speak for saying he hasn't taken advantage of those opportunities that have popped up.
You're absolutely right. But when you're playing a game such as we just played, where you blow a team out like that, and you can afford a couple plays, like even though you're playing soft shell defense anyway, guess what? You play corner, get out there, play some corner.
Get up there.
Yeah. Get out there. I can say there was times in a game where they threw me out there at gunner. They threw me out there at all different positions that I've never played. I can remember playing for New England, playing against the doggone Saints, and we're in there, and that place is rocking, as you guys can imagine. And somebody got hurt, and they're like, Isaiah, here, get in there on the front line of kickoff return. I'm like, I've never even taken one rep at practice in this. So they showed me a piece of paper. They're like, hey, do this right here. I'm like, all right. So I run out there, and you run out there, and guess what? I went out there and I did exactly what I was supposed to do. So guess what? I played the rest of the year.
Did you hit a guy?
You know what I'm saying?
Did you get someone?
No, I had never in my life taken a rep, and playing on the front line of kickoff return is hard. Usually I was a kickoff returner, right? But playing on the front line of kickoff return, I was because of my size and my speed, I could be a returner, I could be in the front line, I could whatever. So they put me on the front line on that play, and I had to run back, set my feet. There's a lot of technique that's associated with playing that position. It's hard. It's not like that NFL now where 70-80% of the kicks go out the end zone. This was every kick was dang near being returned, and I made the play. Right, I did what I was supposed to do. I did my assignment. Do your job. Nothing special. Just did my job. And from that one play that I had never practiced before, I played that the rest of the year. So put him out there. So what? He hasn't had any reps at corner this year. Guess what? That's what he did. That's what's in his DNA. If you're blowing a team out, throw him out there. Let's see what he has. Let's just see him compete. They haven't even seen him compete.
Yeah.
That's called answering the bell. That's called answering the bell, Isaiah. That's
he answered the bell.
He answered the bell. And I just don't think that this coaching staff has the confidence that he will answer the bell. I mean, you think about the cornerback position, and you said it. In a blowout, what could possibly go wrong? If you're in zone coverage and your guy goes across the field in a crossing route, you know to stay in your zone.
Yep.
You've been playing that since high school, right?
Yep.
So I don't know. There has to be some other things going on, and I think in the offseason we'll have a better opportunity to evaluate this player.
True that.
And when we come back here on Talking Cowboys, we're going to talk about the potential and the percentage that the Cowboys could win out and get back to 7 wins. And maybe Reggie Robinson's a part of that. Maybe Bradley and I is. Probably not. We're probably not going to see them if we didn't see them against Cincinnati. So my hopes are shot. But we're going to talk about percentages when we come back here on Talking Cowboys, presented by Geico.
We're back with a tasty treat that's sweeping airwaves and taste buds. It's new Dr. Pepper and Cream Soda. Let's take a listen.
Dr. Pepper and Cream Soda's here. A new combo that's music to my ears, okay. Let's play. Cream Soda and Dr. Pepper time. Pour it in a glass of ice.
Music to my ears and mouth. New Dr. Pepper and Cream Soda.
A delicious duet.
There's nothing as unique as our eyes, which is why Essilor pioneers ways to make lenses as unique as you. Verilux for super sharp vision, Essential Blue for protection, and Crizal for freedom from glare. 3 cutting-edge solutions in a single unique lens. So whatever your needs, insist on Essilor. Visit your local Essilor experts and find the perfect lens for you. See more, do more, Essilor.
The Cowboys Way, where 16 Hall of Famers and 5 championships shows us what success looks like, where turkey is always the second best part of Thanksgiving Day, where we are all defined by one single thing, the star, where we as fans know it's our job to keep the tradition going. Bank of America is proud to be the official bank of the Dallas Cowboys and to support the quest of living life the Cowboys Way. Copyright 2020, Bank of America Corporation.
Dear, it's 1908. Don't you think we should get electricity?
And stop using candles to see at night.
It's just electricity lights up the room fast. It's more reliable than candles blowing out, and people seem to love it nationwide.
Well, candles are...
Dear, did you just run into the wall?
Nope. May I have a new candle, please?
Historically, switching to new technology is a no-brainer. Today, it's AT&T 5G. Fast, reliable, secure, and nationwide. Switch to AT&T 5G. It's not complicated. 5G requires compatible plan. May not be in your area. See att.com/5G for you for details.
Back to Talkin' Cowboys.
Final couple minutes here of Talkin' Cowboys presented by Geico. And whether you're watching from home or you're cheering in the stands with Essilor lenses, you'll see every exciting play. Book an appointment at your local Essilor experts and see what Essilor can do for you. See more, do more, Essilor. As always, here on Talkin' Cowboys, Isaiah Stanback. Great work as always. Rob Phillips, Heckma Harrison. I'm Kyle Yeomans. Chris Beam producing back at the Star in Frisco. See Beasy holding down the fort. Now, I want to give you guys, we've only got about 4 or 5 minutes left in the show, and I want a percentage from you guys. What is the percentage that the Cowboys win out the final 3 games of the season? San Francisco Sunday, New York next week, and then we've got Philadelphia coming up. Or excuse me, I flipped those. Philadelphia is next week, and then New York to round out the season. But what is the percentage that the Cowboys win out? And then I want a second percentage. What's the percentage that they win the division, which means that Washington would have to lose out as well? And this is just to get a gauge going into the rest of the week in our preparation of San Francisco and kind of how we're looking at things, and maybe even from a coaching staff conversation standpoint. But Heckma, we're going to start with you. Where is your percentage right now in terms of the Cowboys winning out and winning the division?
I'm standing in Tostitos Plaza right now. I'm standing in Tostitos Plaza.
Going back to the Funtown RV.
Funtown RV. Man, that's a tough one. I don't have a lot of faith that we win out. I just don't. And I feel like the other teams, they have so much more to be playing for. So, I mean, I give it, oh God, man, like 25%. I'm just throwing out a number on that.
To win out?
No, to
win the division?
Yeah, to win the division, yeah.
Okay. Well, I was asking for 2 separate numbers there, but that's okay. Isaiah, where are you going? Where are you going with on this one?
I'll take 33% and 5%, sir.
Okay. Okay, explain your reasoning.
33%, I think we win one of those 3 games. And then 5% because if we do win a game or 2, I don't see all those other teams losing out. I don't see Washington and New York and Philly all just losing out. So the chances are really slim that we'll win the division.
What's the game that we would win out of those 3?
Philadelphia.
Really? That would have probably been one of the ones that I would say that you wouldn't win, especially if Jalen Hurts still plays the way that he played last week.
Yeah, I think they find a way. I think their discontent, their displeasure of the Giants will carry them through.
Okay. Rob?
I went to A&M, so I'm not good with percentages, but I would say, I think they got a chance to win 2 out of 3. I really do. I think they can win their last 2 division games. I don't see New York is playing better, but from just a personnel standpoint, I don't look at their roster and say they can't beat that team. Same with Philly, especially I think Jalen Hurts definitely. Jalen Hurts has given them a spark though, so they might be a very different team in 2 weeks. The San Francisco game I worry about because the way they run the football, no matter who's back there. So that's going to be. And when Mike Nolan said yesterday that their scheme is like Cleveland's scheme, like Washington's scheme, I'm like, oh boy. Okay, well, see how that goes. But look, they took a step forward last week, so we'll see. What was the percentage on the second one? Just winning the division?
Just winning the division.
I'll go with Isaiah, like 5%. Like all it takes is one win by Washington, and if Alex Smith is going to be back and healthy, I like their chances of winning another game. They're starting to put it together defensively. They look pretty good.
Yeah.
It's pretty incredible to see what kind of defensive fronts that the NFC East is kind of putting together. And I'm going to ask the question tomorrow because I think we need more time on this. But is the defensive fronts that we've seen from Philadelphia that dominated New Orleans on Sunday, from Washington that we've seen all year, and then also, I mean, New York's defensive front is not too shabby as well. And I'm going to ask the question tomorrow, is this in retaliation or not retaliation, but is this an adjustment made by the other divisional opponents to what our offensive line looked like previously and what the Cowboys had as an offensive line in the past? And so we're going to talk about that a little bit tomorrow, but that's going to do it for us here on Talking Cowboys on this Tuesday. So glad you've been with us here over the last 45 minutes. Make sure and join us again tomorrow, 9:30. We'll take a look at the offense of San Francisco and how they've been faring over the last couple of weeks and how they could go up against this Cowboys defense that may be getting some guys back this week, and we'll talk about that as well. But for Heckma Harrison, for Rob Phillips, and Isaiah Stanback, as well as Chris Beam back at the Star holding down the fort, I'm Kyle Yeoman saying so long from the SWBC Mortgage Studios. We'll see you next time on Talking Cowboys.
This has been a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
How about this, Cowboys? Yeah!